This is genius.
This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
I've never seen so many mullets in my life.
No, it's just about feeling good.
You had more chins than a Chinese phone book for a while.
Man.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. I mean, he's right. He said, Goonies never say die. We're going.
We got this.
All right.
I was pulling the trigger, but the safety was on.
I just Randy Black Eagle.
That's it. Boom.
That's my.
That's how we roll. Just drop the mic and walk away.
Yeah, I had already shot a deer.
Yeah.
So I got dropped off in. I love that spot, by the way. I think I spent the whole week there.
Yeah. You could actually tell.
You could tell.
Yeah. I thought I'd see more deer. And then the next day you took me on the plateau. Oh, mother of pearl, 100 mule deer. And the second day was better. 18 bucks over 150, couple in the 190s. And that was just in one spot. And keep in mind, like, that's just one of your glassing points in one of your units.
I went over there, belly crawled, and it was so cool. I got to the end, and I'm looking through the grass because I'm pretty flat. I just didn't want to spook them. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast. We're in Alberta, Canada.
Empress.
Big
town.
Mm-hmm. With Jeff Lander.
Primitive Outfitting. And we had Ben Laden on the podcast yesterday. He's got 3 names.
Gentle Ben.
4 now. Gentle Ben, Relaxin' Jackson, Bend Over, and
Action Jackson.
Relaxin' and Action. Ben's got
He's only Ben Laden when he's hungry.
Yeah.
He gets hangry.
He's got the
He's like you,
going.
man. He gets hungry and he's like, well, and you.
Yeah. I get hangry.
I like my food, dude.
Yeah.
I like food. So we're here in this the Empress Motel.
Forkview.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah,
It is nice. There's only 90 people in this town, right?
Yeah.
90.
It's like I got that many people in my family.
That's not 90,000. That's 90 sub 100.
Yes.
Yeah, small town.
Great town, though.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of fun here.
Cool people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been an awesome trip. We've been down here hunting mule deer, bow hunting mule deer, spot and stock, and that has been a, let's just say, challenging. A little challenging.
The deer here are smart. They're very smart.
Yeah, they're not dumb. Lander, you've been a huge, I mean, when we talked to you when we were bear hunting, you were talking about hunting mule deer here with the recurve being sort of that ultimate, hunt for you. And, you just love it. Why do you like it?
It's a target-rich environment. A lot of deer out there. A lot of moves to make.
Mm-hmm.
If you're smart.
Yeah.
I would say, the first hole I was in, I only saw some deer, and I actually mentioned to Ben, I thought I'd see more deer. And then the next day you took me on the plateau. Oh, mother of pearl. What do you think? 15 to 25 buck. Well, I don't know. We saw 100 deer, I'm sure. 100 mule deer. And the second day was better. I would say 18 bucks over 150, couple in the 190s, and that was just in one spot. And keep in mind, like, that's just one of your glassing points in one of your units. And you guys probably, that was the same. That day you saw that $1 185, 190.
Where was that area where I was playing whack-a-mole with a million different deer? That was insane. Deer were just coming from every direction.
They wanted to get in that field so bad. You could see them coming up the hill, and they were just like, we know there's something up there we don't like, but we want to come anyway. And they
were like trying to sprint past me. Like, ready, go, run the gauntlet. It was wild.
Well, it was a pea field, first of all, which is probably number one for them, because there's an alfalfa field that would have 75 deer on it every morning.
Yeah.
And I don't think the advantage of having, hunters, I've been down here 19 years now, and they all want to see numbers of deer.
Yeah.
I want to see one.
Yeah. If you're a tactician, it's an ultimate. If you like the chase, if you like to find well, just like we're going to talk about in a second, Brian spotted it. We moved over, flagged us in, went down to the socks. If you're a tactician, if you're a guy that likes the stock mule deer, it's a pretty cool place.
And as the hunt progressed, we spent a lot of time more time looking for deer that would split off and that were more stockable. Because we went after it on the first day. I went after this buck, these two giant deer, and they were with 12 does. There's 14 deer total. And trying to sneak up on that group was a lot harder than sneaking up on where Aaron shot his buck, which is what we're going to cover in this podcast. Aaron's stock, that hunt. Those were two bucks by themselves in an ideal stalking location, So that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But it was a learning curve, though.
Well, in all fairness, where you put me, not to get off the stock where I killed one, the second day I was 18 yards from a good deer. He wasn't a high scoring deer as far as technical net score, but he was a wow factor deer. He was, 20 inches wide and 30 inches tall. He was insane looking deer, and he bedded exactly like you want him to, off a cliff, straight down, fed it facing away, and in fairly short order, I was above him for 3 to 5 minutes waiting. He'd moved his bed just 3 yards, but he was in the brush, and the wind changed and just was blowing at my back, and it blew at my back for a while, right over the top of him, and eventually a downdraft caught. And with a compound, it was a fairly decent hole to get through. With the stick bow, it's a little bit different, and I took the shot and I hit a high, but that was on day 2, and that deer I would have been happy with any weapon. I had photos of it, and that was when I say tactician. Deer came in, bedded. I have to figure out how to get to it. I low crawled down till its eyes were out of my view. Low crawled a little bit more, hopped up, kind of crab walked, ran around, circled, just like you want to do through those big crevices. And as far as the hunt or a stalk goes, it had everything from the low crawling aspect of it. To getting right above it. And when I say right above it, like 18 yards straight down, 35-degree angle. And it was an amazing hunt. That can happen here. From the short period I've seen, yours was the same way. You were right above yours. You just have to definitely, I would say if you don't know how to stalk, you're probably going to be, you're going to see a lot of butts flying. You're going
to either learn quickly or you're going to see a lot of running.
Yeah, and you've probably seen hundreds of blown stocks.
I've blown hundreds. Yeah, yeah. It's a learning curve, steep, very steep.
Yeah.
So let's set the scene. So here we are. This is day 4. So right, you shot yours on day 4.
Yeah, day 4.
Right.
Yeah, shot on day 5.
Day 5.
You shot on Friday.
Yeah, that's right. I shot mine day 4.
Yeah.
You shot yours day 5. So, day 4 morning's rolling in, and we haven't killed anything yet, and we can feel the clock ticking. Like it's.
Well, in day 4, I got on a 190-inch buck, 54 yards from it, just enough to arouse the appetite without bedding her back down. For a long time. You killed yours.
Yeah.
And then the next day.
But before that, there's a little bit of frustration, pressure. You want to go home. You want to go home successful. You want to get a deer. And I was feeling a little pressure. But then I shot that buck and I felt a lot better.
Every week, man. It's that way.
So excited.
Yeah. Every week. It's like Wednesday night is Dumb and Dumber. We'd play Dumb and Dumber because guys are like, we're seeing all these deer. It's wide open. How do we kill them? And you get to the point where it's like to get 40 yards from these things is impossible. Well, it's not.
No.
But that pressure on the guys put on themselves is what kind of destroys it because now they're pushing it.
Yeah.
And, getting up to them is one thing. Making the shot when they don't know it is a whole different world. And that's where guys are like, tossing rocks or doing the whack-a-mole and trying to see, if they can get a shot into him when he's laying there. And Yeah. So, I mean, I'm so used to it. Ben this week he goes, how do you deal with this? It's like, you just do it. Or I don't even watch half the time. I mean, I got to watch when you guys are stalking, and I want to see where it's hit and whatever. But usually I don't even look through the scope. I'm just watching. As soon as I see the guy move, then I'll put it up, because usually it's going to get destroyed before he even moves. Something's going to happen. Like range finding, you're in a spot where you're 20 yards from this deer. You're there for 3 hours, and literally the one guy, I counted 18 times that he hit his rangefinder. Never moved. Never believed his rangefinder. Kenton did that a few times yesterday too, right? I mean, it's just natural. He couldn't get a good read on it, but I've had that movement has been enough to send him out.
Yeah. Kenton ranged, I counted at the one point. He'd probably be mad at me that I mentioned this. He was over 40 times he ranged. Now, 38 of those could have been miss ranges.
Yeah, because he was
low
down over and he probably
divot.
was hitting brush and whatever. But
yeah, well, and I mean, I think earlier before I killed mine that day, I said not a bragging thing. I just said I just need one in its bed, and I'll kill it. I'll get in on it. Of course, that's being overly optimistic, but I usually don't screw up when I'm that close. But you can. The one. The biggest thing is, like, to me here is, I would say, taking your shoes off is pretty vital. When the wind's not blowing.
Mm-hmm.
When the wind's blowing, you can get away. When I got 54 from the one and just ran out of real estate, the wind was like 30 miles an hour. I could done whatever I wanted. But if you get, to me, it seems like 2 or 3 opportunities at bedded deer with a good wind, you're probably going to kill one of them here if you know how to stalk.
I would say out of I don't know how many mule deer we've killed, whatever, 60, 70.
Yeah.
I can count on one hand how many were shot in their beds.
Yeah.
Usually the situation is like that buck you couldn't see.
Yeah.
You're there, you see tips of the antlers, and then you wait. Very rarely do you get one, because usually they're banked up against the bank.
Yeah.
Wind's coming over them, and they can see this way, so you could never, I mean, their beds are so dug into the terrain that you can only see antlers. And sometimes when they stand up, you can't even get a shot.
Yeah, Ben and I had that same conversation. I'm like, look, I think if I move up and down this ridge top, and I had snuck in a few times and come back, I was like, and he hadn't seen me or smelled me, I was like, I think I can sneak around up here and find a shot angle. And Ben's like, or you could just sit still
and wait
for him to stand up.
Because usually all you have is the backbone, right? I mean, if you do, your situation was, because when I saw you shooting, I'm like, okay, is it stand?
Yeah. He didn't. He
had a good angle.
Yeah, you did. He was
the best angle.
Yep.
A lot of things fell into place.
So on that note, this is day 5, and
we're all herded up.
Yeah, I had already shot a deer.
Yeah.
So I got dropped off in. I love that spot, by the way. I think I spent the whole week there.
Yeah.
You could actually tell.
You could tell.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. There were a few piles of toilet paper sprinkled here and there.
You could land a jet there.
There's like no place to hide, dude. It's like wide open. Anyway, I don't know what a guy expects me to do. So we're glassing. I'm glassing there that morning, and I see a couple big bucks, really big bucks. And this was really interesting because they came off of the alfalfa field, and I film them, and they walk across the entire top. And now bucks are splitting off from does, which earlier in the week, that was not the case. Mm-mm. They were running with all these does, and now all of a sudden these bucks are just going in 2s or 3s by themselves or alone. And I see these 2 bucks, and I watch them. I actually watch them for about 2 hours, I think, 2.5 hours, and they would disappear into this canyon. And one time they went down, and they were gone, and I was like, I pinpointed the spot, and I was like, that's where they're at. And I was thinking in my head how I was going to get over there to try to find them. And I started doing some other stuff with the phone. I had my laptop. I was dinking around, and I would just now and then I just look through the spotter over there to see if they moved. And I saw some does join up with them, like 10 of them, and then I saw the does leave. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, good. They're still in that hole, I think. But you can't tell, like, if they hit in the hole and they stay down in those coulees, they could travel all over and you're not in sight. Luckily, though, just out of the, I just kind of glanced real quick over there, and there they were. They were coming out over the top and then back down, like 3 minutes. And I saw them rebed, and it was pretty late in the afternoon or late morning. So that was kind of lucky. And I saw them come over the ridge and then go down. And I could see from the terrain I was on, the side I was on, that if I went way down there and belly crawled to the end of this peninsula where I'm at, I could glass into the hole they had gone into. And here it is late in the day, and I'm like, I feel like you got to put eyes on them as best you can. If I could find out where they're bedded, then you save all that time. Mm-hmm. And then it's that whole thing where, you can flag a guy in to where that deer is. So I went over there, belly crawled, and it was so cool. I got to the end, and I'm looking through the grass because I'm pretty flat. I just didn't want to spook them. And after the first 3 days of just seeing what works and what doesn't work, those deer, I swear, it seems like I've gotten away with a lot more movement or visibility in other places I've hunted. Mm-hmm. And when I've seen mule deer, and maybe they're just smarter here, or they're just more pressured, or I'm not sure what it is. But they seemed like they had supersonic sight and hearing. Mm-hmm. Like, we're in the truck, and Ben's phone rings, and he picks up the phone, and there are 14 deer, I don't know, 1,000 yards away.
Yeah, they probably click or more.
Yeah. And Ben's like, yeah, what's up? And they go, whoop, and they all looked in one group. And I'm like, they can't possibly have heard that.
They look like NWA, man, 100 miles and running after that. And I was like, that's interesting. I would have never guessed they could have done that.
Never.
Yeah.
So that happened a bunch of times. So I realized, okay, I got to be quiet. Mm-hmm. I can't be talking when I come out of the truck. Can't slam the door.
That's a big one.
You've got to, when you're glassing and moving around up there, 1,000 yards away, you're like, oh, I'm invisible. No, they're looking right at you. So that was a learning curve. Mm-hmm. I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
You find guys experience the same thing?
Oh, for sure.
They're just like, whoa.
And I don't think it's because there's a lot of, how many other hunters did you see?
None. Well, that's the whole thing. Like,
yeah, but they're just, they're wired different out here. I don't know what it is. Rifle season's a gong show, and they just get out of town.
To me, I just think that with all the traffic and everything else in rifle season, they've just learned that, you know what, if I get up and run a ways, I won't die. And
yesterday that buck that was bedded.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what was he, 500 yards out?
At least.
Yeah, maybe 7. Gone. And you only stopped for a second. And
stopped the truck?
Yeah. Glassed.
And he bolted?
He was watching.
I thought I saw something, and I put it up, and we saw bone and
big buck,
and then he's up and gone.
Yeah,
into hell. That's where he went.
That's a long ways too.
Well, yeah, I it's different because in some ways, again, like you said, they bed in very killable positions because they feel safe up against the bank, and if you wait them out, from the ones I've seen, the one that, well, I got within 60 yards of a few, and bedded and waited, and they were all, once they stood up, very killable. It's just
totally.
If you don't watch your corners, if you don't watch your noise, Kenton learned the hard way. He's like, I should have taken a half step instead of 2 steps and blew them out. But they're killable. You're killing big ones every year. But
that's one thing I was going to say is what I noticed is they did bed like on top of a tower in a way. Like they put their backs up against a cliff, and they're pretty, most of the time. The biggest bucks I saw were not far. They were shootable from the top of the ridge. It's like they like to climb to the very top of the mountain,
Top third for sure.
Bed right there, and they could see everything below them that might try to kill them, and they got the wind at their back.
And they bed. The 2 biggest things to me I've gone for you here is consistent wind, and they bed forever. They bed for a long time.
Telling Ben that last night. One of the coolest parts about hunting here was the wind was so consistent. Yeah, it was very reliable. Far more, especially like when you get into those high altitude hunts, like where Aaron is. The wind can just be a freaking pain in the butt.
Yeah, it can be weird though in those coulees too.
Now, I was
for sure.
When we got down, it's always a little different, but for the most part, on top coming in, it stayed fairly consistent, more consistent than any place else I've ever hunted. But But yeah, but I mean, back on track, you spotted those deer.
Yeah.
We were a ways away. We came over and you gave us the scenario. We all met up, all 6 of us. And we did a couple short comical videos, made fun of Brian for pooing all over, grabbed a snack. I had to dress down. I was a little bit heated with the underwear on. I had long johns on. I believe we did a video
stay cool.
on. You got to stay cool. You don't want to get hot down there. You'll get emotional on the stock. That was right before we left. And then you stayed on the far side to flag us in. And then Lander and I drove, was that 20 minutes around?
Something like that, yeah.
And one thing that I thought was cool, we're working out our hand signals before we go, so we kind of know what means what. We should probably perfect a lot more of those.
It worked.
But Aaron's like, hey, before you screw this up, take this orange flag with you.
Which is perfect. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
smart.
what we always do is like a Neo Air pad rolled up, an orange dry sack.
It really had to help because I'm looking
I
at you
would've
guys
never-
and you're like a black dot and your arms go out. I can't really tell. Even with binos, it was like,
Well, I flagged so many sheep hunter, mule deer, and goat hunters in. I'm a keep it simple guy. You just flag me in the direction the deer is where you want me, how far I am from the deer. And it worked. Every time I looked at you, you went.
Yep.
And I moved over with that orange sack. And then, what did I stop? Probably 10 times?
and look,
Yeah.
check me out. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
you
kept going more.
Yep.
More.
And then what
over
were
more.
you behind me? You left me with,
I dropped down to find the buck, right?
yeah, you went down and around to see if you could see it from the other direction. And I went left and hooked around to drop on top of it. So you're probably 80 yards from me?
Yeah. Well, the buck I saw was the top one.
Yep.
Just a little bit of his rack, but by the time I got to you, you were already in the zone.
I was in the kill mode.
You weren't going to, because I was trying to get you to go down this one spot, and
Yeah.
you'd look at me, but you didn't see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was an ASAT too, so of course you didn't see me. But, yeah.
You're definitely harder to spot. You
Oh,
were-
the leafy
Yeah.
suit is insane.
yeah.
I was going to ask you if there was yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But you were, I mean, you knew where you were at. I mean, Brian had already given you the hand signals, so
and I don't know that you knew immediately that because I was looking at a different deer than you were entirely.
when you saw, I knew right when you saw the deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. From
Yeah.
all the way over there, I was like, I think I've turned my phone on and I'm recording this play-by-play, and I'm like, I think he sees a deer. Because you could just see Aaron's, everything locked. He's like a dog on point.
Yeah.
When it rounded, hard to imagine this, but it there was kind of a rounded cove, and then it bumped back out left. And when I came in from where you stopped me, and I could see you, obviously, I think you were about 80 yards from me, and you said there was 2 deer. When we left, you said the deer that's killable is the higher deer. Well, when I got over there, there was a bush to my left that I just screamed, I have a mule deer under me. And I just kept...
And there was one there.
Yeah, and I never saw it, ever. I mean, Jeff even asked me after I shot. And I'm like,
I wasn't sure, but from where I was at, there was a massive bush,
Yeah.
and if it's as steep as it looked, because
He was on
his
a
legs were hanging off a ledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was bush, probably a 2-foot drop.
Those beds are awesome, man.
He looked like a lion,
I looked...
like a mountain lion.
when I
hanging
went,
off.
when you dropped me to go around, it looked exactly as you're saying. He had about this distance, which is probably 2.5, 3 feet of where he was laying. And it just looked like a mule deer should be there. And so I'm, when I drop over this rise to look down, I'm basically in my mind going, okay, there's a minimum of 2 deer and there could be more. And I'm trying to scan everything as much as possible because I've blown a few deer out myself from not paying attention to how many bucks are in the area. You see one buck, you get tunnel vision on one buck, and pretty soon there's 7 bucks and they're all running away.
And I didn't know where that buck was that morning. The big buck, they're both big. The one buck that you didn't shoot,
Yeah.
he was in the exact same spot I'd left him.
Yeah.
So when I crawled back to flag you in, I was immediately looking for both of them, so I could, tell you like, oh, he's staring at you or whatever.
Yeah.
But the sun was beating down on the area he had been, which was on the far right. And so I'm looking and looking, and I'm like, he just moved out of the sun. And he moved all the way to the far left. Well, I couldn't see because I have a mountain ridge in front of me. So all I can see is the one buck. So I have a little anxiety the whole time because I'm like, where's that other deer?
Yeah.
And is he going to blow? Is he going to, spot you?
And when I came over where that cove was, I caught the top tines of the buck I killed. And I ranged it, and he was 64 yards. And I looked forward, and there was a drainage, which I roughly, I was guessing was 28 yards from me. And I'm like, well, if I get in that drainage, he's going to die today. So I scooted all the way back and then came down that drainage. And I was in my socks. In fact, I stepped on multiple. Jeff was laughing because I was doing
awesome.
I was chicken dancing a few times because I kept stepping on.
Keep it slow, man.
Yeah, and on it for me, it is very important. I need that, and I have gotten, admittedly, lucky many times with stalking faster than admittedly I probably should. But anytime I've dropped my shoes off, it's out because I have feet of a 3-year-old child. It is super bad. That buck I shot this year in Colorado, same thing. I had to go slow because I'm so scared when I put my foot down to step on something sharp that I'm like barely creeping. But I circle down and I get in this drainage, and I don't know. Did you see how many times I looked left?
Yeah, no, and I told you that a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
They get so focused on the target animal that they don't. You knew Brian had already told us that there was 2 in there, and you look left as much as you were looking forward.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was,
which is that just shows experience. Western hunters that hunt mule deer versus a guy from the east who hunts strictly tree stands. It's just something that you're
not used to.
Most people aren't. Yeah. Well, because then that's what kills you here is that doe and most of these big deer will have sentries that are positioned and they're sound asleep. You watch them, they're out cold, and these younger ones are, they're scared. I've seen them thrash the young ones when they fall asleep, get up and just bam. But when you get them alone or you get 2 big bucks together,
which worked out. Well, and that leads me to my next debacle, which didn't matter, but I'm looking at this buck thinking, you're going to have to edit this, Brian, but holy if that's the smaller buck, that other buck is enormous. Because I looked at that buck and immediately ran like 4 numbers in my head. And I'm like, out of those 4 numbers, that buck's 170. And he's got character. And
I knew, like, I'd seen him through the camera.
Yeah.
I videotaped him as they were walking away. And I got him on the spotter. And I had a hard time judging who was bigger. But because of the deep back forks on that other buck and stuff, I was thinking, I think that one's bigger. But it was splitting hairs because they were both so big.
Yeah, because this one had bigger fronts after I shot. Yep. This one had bigger fronts and more mass and bigger eye guards. The other one I didn't see had eye guards.
This one was had more stickers on it and
I would
character.
But it wouldn't have mattered. Dead. He's dead.
Yeah,
he's right
but
here.
the light colored horns were harder to see. The other one had some dark ones, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, and when I saw this one and I had taken a step.
You're like, he's big enough.
Oh, well, I was like, that's a 170-inch buck. I'm going to kill it. Like, there was no maybe I'll wait this other one out. There was none of that. Even it remotely went through my mind. I'm like, I need to get to 38 yards is my point on. And when you saw me take the last 2 steps or 3, I went from 42 to 38, so roughly 42, 41. But at 41, I hit my feather, which you warned me about, to get a cover on my feather. I hit my feather on a bush, and I might as well said, hey, I'm up here, because it was like, and to any other non-hunter's ears, it's nothing. There was no wind up there, and it was like, it caught the back third of my fletching, and immediately that buck just snapped his head over, and I'm like, and I froze, and he never looked back, and I'm like, if he cranks his head back forward in a couple of seconds, I'm good. And immediately after I thought that, he put his head back forward, and I'm like, 3 more steps to glory. I just need 3 more steps, and I can kill him. And at the 3rd step, there was a cliff anyway, so I was like, well, I can't get any closer.
Ran out of real estate.
Well, not with that. Yeah, I mean, it was literally only that far of a drop, but that far of a drop for a fat guy is a lot of a drop to try to drop down. And I'm like, well, I'm good. I mean, I thought he's cornering away, and I mean, point on and everything else, no wind. And
Was his head to the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Head to the right. And I drew back, and it felt like an amazing shot. And I remember my hand ended up back on my shoulder like it was supposed to. And the arrow just was like, I mean, it's like art in motion, right? For me, anyway. And everyone told me this. You told me this multiple times. Watching that arrow in flight, especially with these giant orange and yellow feathers, go into that buck, and the buck, I watched the whole time. The buck never turned his head, and then it had the impact, and I heard it. And at first, I thought I actually just pinwheeled him, 12-ringed him. And right when that happened, I glanced left immediately, and sure enough, that buck came out of that hole, and I'm like, doesn't matter, they're both big. And then it took off. It took off, and you looked to see, you went like this, I think, to see if I hit it.
You gave me the thumbs up. I moved forward, and then I saw the buck that you didn't shoot, and he was going away, and then you pointed because I was trying to see where you hit him.
Yeah.
And then you went like that.
Yeah, I went like pointed.
They ran in totally opposite directions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my shot was not the best. It actually wasn't for a 38-yard shot. It wasn't a horrible shot. I was, back 6-8 inches?
Yep,
and
not far.
Left a little 3. But the arrow stayed in him for quite some time. And I ran back and found my shoes. Jeff had eyes on the deer. You were in a good position where you were at. And the first thing you told me is that buck's dead. You're like, that buck's going to die. There is blood everywhere on that buck, and it was profusely bleeding. And so I was excited to hear you say that because I was unsure exactly, because when it took off, I thought I should have paralyzed it is what I thought where I hit initially when it ran up. Mm-hmm. And I hit basically, to give you an idea, it was cornering away with its head to my right and its butt to my left, looking away from me. And so I was trying to shoot basically mid-body, cornering away, and I hit just slightly back of that and left, which put it almost in the spine.
Yep.
And it drove that arrow
up into the vitals.
Deep. Yeah, I mean, it was deep. And
liver, spleen, I mean, what did it hit? Like, maybe in little...
I hit one lung and guts, maybe liver.
Later when we got on the deer, dude, the back, the whole back strap and the spine, it's amazing that he walked. We were like, whoa.
That was a tough deer. But
well, when I saw him, he immediately his whole white, like that was a 350-pound animal.
Yeah.
And his whole butt was red.
Yeah.
Soaking red.
Yeah.
And you could see the arrow, and the arrow wasn't moving. So I'm thinking that arrow was pounded into a bone somewhere.
And that's within seconds of...
And then he tried to scale that real sharp cliff and turn around, and he looked at, I mean, he was looking to see what happened.
Yeah.
And again, he didn't see me, but he saw you.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I'm a big guy.
Yeah. And I'm tiny. I mean, but no, and he
had ASAT.
ASAT. But he turned around and looked right, at us, and you could just see he was confused. But a shout out to whoever taught you how to shoot, the clums.
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed, not to pump your ego, but I'm gonna, is that when you drew back, you held that thing for like 3 seconds. And I'm guilty of this. I mean, I come back, whoa, my arrow's gone. And if I'm nervous or all of a sudden it happens, that snap shooting, you locked in, man.
Yeah.
And that was, I took a picture of it.
Yeah. No,
So,
I have to hand it to the clums, not to pump their tires more than I already do, but they deserve some pumping because I wouldn't be able to hit anything probably if it wasn't for them. And I mean, it has been ingrained in my brain what to do by them, to where it's literally second nature. And after every animal I've shot, it gets better. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I wasn't nervous. I remembered the whole thing. And I remember.
What's the sequence you do again? I was trying to tell Vinny that last night.
You mean in my mind what I say?
Yeah. I know it's R-rated, but roughly the
die,
cotton picker,
mother
die.
forker, die. But in the time I hit my anchor, that's what I say. And that's about the time it takes me to execute the shot if everything goes well. And I pulled, and when I was pulling in my tension, and I had the tip on it. I mean, the deer wasn't moving, and everything was right. And when it broke free, I mean, I literally thought I was going to 12 ring it. Like I was like, "Whew, that is amazing." And then when it hit, I still thought I 12 ringed it at first. When it stood up, I thought I was seeing things because blood was flying out of it. Like, I'm like, I don't really know exactly what just happened, but it seemed good because that thing was smoked. And then we saw it was a little far back, a little left. But you glassed it, and we talked for a little bit, and you were like, we were both going to go over, and he's like, well, Jeff told me, if you want to follow it, it's in that crevice. Go slow when you get to the crevice. Again, I get a little excited, and I never get excited. I don't ever show emotion externally. Like, he couldn't tell I actually hit it. But, man, I tell you what, as far as
you see him kiss my forehead when he tackled me.
We dance around in circles.
Oh, I was doing chicken dancing.
No, Aaron shoots, and I'm looking at Aaron, and I'm like, I think he hit it. I think he shot. Or I said, Aaron just shot. And I'm looking at him, and I can't tell one way or another, like, whether Aaron kills it or doesn't kill it. This response is kind of the same. It's like, he just starts walking up the hill, and I'm like, what's going on here? And then I heard you whistle, or somebody was whistling. I think it was you. You whistled, and you waved or something.
Oh yeah, you might have to tell me where it went. And
you heard that from all the way over there.
Oh, like that.
Yeah,
that's a poke
incredible.
across. Yeah, that's amazing. But
he didn't see it, so yeah, it was.
It was like 1,400 yards.
It was a long way.
And I heard you whistle.
It was far enough,
and wave your arm across, and I was like, So I knew that it had run down the other side, and you had eyes on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I didn't know where it went.
But before you go on, one thing I wanted to just mention was how surreal it was to be sitting there and watching Aaron, lock on. And I want to turn the camera on. I really did, and I tried to set it up, but I had to get that thing like 2 feet in the air in order to film, and I just didn't trust with those deer the way they are. That if I poked that up. In fact, before we went over there, I said, I want to flag Aaron in. And you're like, nah, let's just all go over there.
Well, I didn't want, my biggest concern was you.
Yeah.
Only because it doesn't take much. I mean, we could see you. I mean, we knew where you were. We could just see your head. And, but yeah, that close.
You've experienced this before.
Oh,
where
man.
you try to flag someone in, and you got 2 hunters, and the guy does this, and the deer bolt.
Oh man, yeah, and then you're trying to tell your hunter who's stalked in and whatever that you blew the deer out. That's my biggest fear. All the time. Yeah,
and you said that you've seen this just fail more often than it succeeds because the flagger blows it.
Yeah, the guy watching. Yeah.
So I was like, don't worry, I got this.
I know, yeah.
I'd already crawled in there. I knew where to go. I felt like I had it, and then I felt like I'll stay below.
You were funny because, not funny, but it was funny because you held that curled up thing in front of your face like this, and you can't watch, but basically like he was praying right in front of him.
I sort of was.
And I'm like, well, that's got to be the sign. I'm right above it, I guess. And you did it again. You went like that, and I'm like, all right, I got to be golden. But anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
So then, so it worked out well. I was worried about that, but where the most intense moment for me was when Lander started walking and looking over the edge, and I was like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, because that was the one thing that one buck was right here, and he was looking downhill, but now and then he'd look forward, and I was like, man, he might just see Lander's head just pop over that ridge. But this isn't your first rodeo. You've done this before.
Oh, believe me, you think you've got it figured out, and then you don't. I wanted to know exactly where he was because we were way ahead of the game. The fact that you betted them and you knew where they were, that's huge, success wise. But I wasn't sure, and that's all we do. We just staircase that, just boom, one step.
You're just looking for those antler tips. That way, if they don't see your eyes. They can't see you.
Oh, and another step for me, the first
you can't see their eyes.
When I hooked around, I was far enough to the left of that buck I saw because he was cornering away with his head left. He would have saw me if I wouldn't have saw his antler tips. And
you backed off. I mean, I saw you like going in just a little bit at a time, and just glassing like inch by inch. And I assumed you saw the antler tips, and you were like, "Whoa!" And you stepped back like.
I just want to know. Yeah.
Well, so actually. On that, we have not discussed how close that other buck was to me. A flea fart away from I mean, I don't even. It was 18 yards or less from me.
I'm on the video, and I'm like, I think I said, "Whoa, that was a long shot." Because here's my view, and I see that buck, and he's basically down below you to your left, just slightly.
Like, he's like 5 yards left and
straight
15
below.
yards down below.
Yes. And so I see him here, and when you shoot, your arrow is to my left of that, the buck right under you. And the hillside is probably twice the distance that buck is down the hill. And I can't see around this little hill. Well, I just see that arrow go down, 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 past where the other buck was, and keep going down, 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 and then pass into where I can't see it anymore. And I'm like, I wonder if he shot like 60 yards, because over there you can't tell distance. And I'm like,
and that other buck was just watching the arrow go through. What is that?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and
the crazy thing too was I could see Aaron's arrow plain as day, just boom.
Oh, I mean, it's like firing a Mark 19 grenade launcher, right? I mean, you go from firing a 50 cal, you're not, to a Mark 19 where
it looked like you just sort of threw a little spear down the hill. Like, that's as fast as it was. From my eyes, it was really.
Well, it's funny how you're the human going in on different stocks. The human brain. What each hunter thinks, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm always thinking as much as I can, assess of everything going on, and slow down. And so with the deer that you guys couldn't see and I could, I'm running the scenarios as fast as I can of, if that buck on my left, if I wait this out, well, can I even see it when it stands? If I can see it when it stands, will it make this other one stand up? If the other one stands up, will the other one see me? Will it blow them all out? And in the 15 seconds of thinking of that, I thought I'll just kill the other buck at 38 yards. Because, I mean, literally that was my ability
Decision
to shoot and my point on are almost identical. Anything after that distance, I'm not comfortable shooting. My group isn't good enough. Mm-hmm. And so it just happens that some people's point on is 60, but then their group's the size of a truck. Mm-hmm. My point on's 38, and I can keep it. I mean, the other night in the Reinhardt 18-1, and so
everything's in it.
Yeah, I just kept thinking 38, 38, 38, and only worry about the buck seeing me. Don't worry about, like in Colorado, waiting above the buck this year. Don't take a knee and wait an hour and a half if I've got a good shot at this other buck.
You take your first good opportunity.
Yeah, yep. And that's when I thought
too many things can go wrong.
If it was 45, it would have taken a lot of. That would have been a tough decision, to be honest with you, because 45 and 38 with a trad bow, in my opinion, is like 40 to 70 with a compound. Just that 5 to 7 yards is so much exponential. And so again, if I I could only got to 43, I think I probably would have waited for that other buck to stand, because I had decent enough cover. Nothing was looking to me, but 38's my point on, and I got to that, and obviously we killed the buck. But either way, they ran off, and you watched them, and we got to the top. We talked for a little bit, and right at the very end, you were like,
I was sitting there going, I don't know if he hit it, or if they're just waiting, or if they're just commiserating over the failure, or what.
Well, and
you didn't see the hug, I take it.
Yeah, we hugged.
I think I was looking for the
I think he was more.
Look over
you would
there,
have been
and you guys were laying on the ground.
He would have been able to handle that.
Oh, I think Lander was more excited than I was. I mean, I was pumped, but Lander was super excited.
I laid his head right on my chest. Just softly. It was gentle.
I came up, and you were like, "How big was it?" And I was like, "It was big, dude." He's like, "How big?" I'm like, "It was big, dude." How big? I'm like, "It had all over it." It was
I
really
saw.
big.
I mean, I could tell, but real quickly, because I think a lot of people, your confidence comes across as arrogance, right?
Yeah.
For some people, I think with this kind of equipment that you're shooting, I can count on 3 fingers how many guys have killed bucks with the traditional gear.
Yeah,
and I mean that's dozens and dozens of guys who've hunted with me.
Yeah,
3 times, and I think that you have to have that confidence that you're going to kill that animal, because a lot of people, I think, like, I just hope I hit it,
Yeah.
But so that when you say I'm going to kill that animal, a lot of people will probably think that's arrogant. I don't see it as arrogant. I think confidence plays a big part in this shooting, and that goes for whatever you're shooting.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And you're right. I have gotten criticized about that, and it's also not my humor, but it's a way for me to confidence, relax. Like, because I always say, "Oh, that thing's going to die today." 1 out of 20 times does it actually happen? But or one hits its bed, right? We're like, "Oh, we're going to go over and kill that thing." Well, that never works out like that. But I say that.
Yeah.
But
you need that. You need that confidence when you hit the dance floor. I mean, I think that's something you need to work on.
I'm not a confident dancer at all, and
karaoke as well. You're a better singer than you think.
I sound like a cow getting hit with hail.
No, you're not bad, actually.
I like to sing. It's just usually by myself or with my daughter. With her, every now and then she'll hit mute, so I'm like yelling when I sing, and then she'll laugh and she'll hit play. And my daughter was pumped about it too, because my daughter and I are buddies, and we talked on the phone, and I was like, "Kayla, I'm getting my butt kicked. This is rough." She's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I missed, whatever." And she's like, "Oh, you'll get one. And so she was super excited. Actually, her teacher told her about it before.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, her teacher knew. But we got to get to the part where I screwed up, which is a lesson learned. So he's very clear. He goes, "Go over there. When you get to the drain, this vein that I saw go up this V."
After it got shot.
After it got shot. Go over there and meet Brian. Or go over there and I'll meet you over there and I'll grab Brian. But do not push it. You know what you're doing. Go slow, step by step. And I'm like, well, this is easy because the first 400 yards it ran, I can just run, which I basically did. I was moving. And I got to that V, and we were supposed to meet at the top of the V, at the knob. Well, crap, I saw blood in my binoculars in the V, and I'm like, it's got to be dead. Go ahead, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, and I was going to say, he literally went through the V and stopped.
Yeah, okay, so that was the problem. Yeah. So I get to the V, and I see blood in my binoculars. And that's, if you see any of the photos of the terrain, not exactly sticks out, right? Blood. I mean, I'm like, and where I hit it, it's at the top of the animal. So I made a pile of rocks, which at that time, I don't think I knew you were watching me.
I was watching you, yeah.
Yeah, I was so focused.
You didn't know I was there.
Yeah, on somewhere after that first or second pile of rocks, I saw you. But in that, because I thought you got stuck in the fence, which will lead up here in a second. So I'm like scanning, and I'm thinking it went up, and its path of least resistance is to go to the right. So I get to the top, and I'm like, I'm looking, and I'm like, it's not here. And I took my crap off, and I sat down, and I was waiting for you. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I hear, and I hear a barbed wire fence, and I'm like,
taking a beating.
And I knew you were to my left, and I'm thinking, why is Brian
got his
stuck?
crotch hooked up on the fence?
Yeah, I'm like, what did Brian do? And then it did it twice, and then it stopped, and I hear, and I'm like, huh. What the hell is he doing? I'm looking over. Well, the deer got stuck in the fence, so the deer winded me. When I got to the top and sat down, he did not take what I saw as a human, the path of least resistance. He went about 15 yards to the left on that cliff edge, and he bedded. And then I blew him out with my wind. And immediately, Brian, you came down and you're hooking over, and you're like, dude, I think he go ahead.
Yeah, I was standing pretty high up toward the top still. I was just at the top, and the wind's blowing toward me. So I'm above where this buck is, where the wind is. But I'm right by I'm like from here to you, Jeff, to the fence, standing beside it. And that's probably where you last saw me, is somewhere right next to the fence. So logically, Aaron's like, dumbass got stuck in the fence.
I did. I thought that. And there was a second I thought it was.
But the second it happened, like, I knew where you were and I knew where I was.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a buck. And I just scanned the fence line. And I saw antlers below a mound. Just that buck was stuck in the fence. And it was just a 2-wire barb. And later went back and looked at it. It looked like, so that arrow, when we found it, the buck later, that arrow was sticking up. It was stuck in between a bunch of bones.
Well, the broadheaded went through the bone of the spine on the parallel part, all the way through into the stomach and I think one lung, maybe not, but it was stuck. That's only that far apart, so
Deep
it
in there,
and it wasn't moving much.
No.
It was that deer
it had severed the muscles in the back, the ligaments, tendons.
It cut half of that big tendon down the spine. It was barely holding on. It looked like 550 cord the guts of it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
That was a tough deer.
I don't know, how well his whole left side was not.
Well,
so he went through. He found that fence where they could just walk through it. And literally, it's like a huge hole. So I think he got the shock of his life when he stepped through it and the arrow got stuck on the wire, and he just
that arrow didn't break. That's amazing.
It's still yeah.
We talk about this all the time. It's not those Black Eagle vintage arrows are like.
Well,
I see Aaron whack squirrels, hit rocks with these arrows, and they don't break.
Well, the only one that broke, which we'll get to the end of that in a minute, was the second arrow I put into the deer. But I watched it, and I thought I was going to die right there. It bedded down twice, and it was not happy at all.
Yeah, I think
After it crossed the fence?
Yeah.
Bedded down twice.
Yeah, I think it just got that arrow just wrenched through its guts
See,
again.
Kenton and I saw it when he come up and out the rim.
Which was 2 seconds after the second time it bed. It just went around the corner on the end of that drainage, and I thought it was going to keep going on a beeline. It did a 180. It did a U-turn, and we couldn't see it. And you guys, again, a lot of things came into play for this because then you guys saw it up top.
And honestly, if you hadn't seen it, we'd have been screwed.
Yeah.
Because I just assumed it had gone the complete opposite direction. That sucker went up, backtracked, circled behind us.
Yeah,
that's his escape route. That's his area.
Yeah. And then we get back on it, and Brian goes down the left drainage, and I go down it's a drainage, and then a plateau, or what I would call a plateau between them that goes down in kind of a knife edge ridge. And Brian low crawled up on the left side, and I went far to the right, the beginning of the top of the other drainage, just low enough to not silhouette myself, basically. Mm-hmm. And I go to the end of that, and something kept telling me, and you'll edit this in, I'm sure, I'm not an overly spiritual man, but something kept saying over and over and over, just go to the end of the ridge. Just go to the end of the ridge. Like a guardian angel was watching. Like, dude, I walked right to the deer. I got to the edge of the ridge and looked over, and I saw that arrow sticking up. I was like, someone's watching over me today, right? I was like,
that had to feel so good.
I walked right to the deer. Literally like a blind man picking out
belly crawling.
his
It's a maze.
Cactuses.
Down in there is a maze of.
I literally walked right to the deer. I could not believe it. And you're right. There's 2 major drainages and 4 finger drainages coming into where that deer was. I peeked my head over, and I was like, whew.
I would have thought he would go to the bottom, to the water, if he's got any gut hit whatsoever.
Well, and he was hurting.
I think he was dying.
Yeah, he was not. Well, so I come back,
He was dead.
15 yards. He could barely get up. I was just freaked out about becoming the crippler, especially on a buck and I'm looking at it now. It looks bigger today than it did yesterday. I'm not sure if it actually is, but
dude, it's a monster.
With
the trad bow.
I low crawled up, and I'm ranging, and again I thought, don't push the issue. 38, and just crush this thing, just drop it. Mm-hmm. I got to 38, and I got up on my knees, and you could see he may have seen me,
So you're 38 again.
Yeah,
like your first shot was 38.
38, okay. And I put that broadhead. If there's a 12 ring on a frontal shot, I got it. He went to stand up, and he was like putting his head up, and he exposed that whole patch between his legs, and dead center through the middle of his front legs, and he was in that hole. It was a V, like one of those deep drainages where it's vertical wall, and he stood up, and that's the only arrow that broke with all his body weight and this much arrow, which is, 14, 12 inches sticking out of it?
12.
Yeah. It hit deep. It caught the corner of that vertical wall, and that one broke. And he was still moving, and I was slightly nervous. I put another one in his heart. Was that all I shot?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going.
I can't get over how big these deer are.
Well, I got
They eat well.
Go ahead.
They eat well, and their winters are half decent down here.
It looked like an elk. I got down there, and I'm like, that's a 325, 350-pound deer. I was like, my Lanta, that thing's huge.
And the deer I shot's not, as old as this deer. he still had a giant body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yours was
body.
275,
Yours was a box car,
300.
too,
Yeah.
And when I hit that dude, same thing. He just ate the arrows.
Yeah.
I usually when I hit a deer like that, they drop.
And
This thing, I shot him 3 times.
Yeah.
I'm shooting a 615 grain arrow, doing 188 feet per second, which for a trad bow is
Pretty
cooking. Yeah, and it pummeled that deer, and it took it like a man and kept on trucking. But so anyway, the deer at this point is now finally dead. It's expired. And I go down and I'm like, I'm looking at the width because I walked up to it facing away and they always look bigger. And I'm like, well, that deer's big. That's a big deer. And I look and I'm like, oh man, I was counting and I was like, because looking at it now, it's a 7 on one side. And I don't know if you count the one on the left side, but I mean, it's got 6 on the left or 5, depending on how you count that one.
Right.
But he's got character. He's got split eye guards on the one side. And I don't know, how wide do you think that is, Jeff?
26, 27.
Yeah. And he's got good mass. And so anyway, I just started yelling to Brian. I'm like, Brian! And I probably yelled 4 times, which at the time now probably wasn't the smartest thing in the world to do because I'm scaring off deer. But I was like, so I ran.
Both are tagged out, so who cares?
Yeah, exactly. We got ours done. So I run up the hill, and I'm like, I got it, I got it. Which you were smart. You ran up and texted Lander at that time, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we came down, and the first thing was like what that shot did to that deer was unbelievable that it made it anywhere, let alone where it did make it to.
And that's just to show, when you do push a wounded animal, how much they can dig deep and make you pay.
Well, and we didn't really have to. We got lucky. I got lucky. I mean, we really lucky that I didn't do anything stupider than I'd done. And I mean, looking at it now, which you don't know, I should have known that the wind was blowing right to left. Mm-hmm. If I would have taken 5 yards to my left, it wouldn't have mattered. And me being me, I'm like, I'm just going to take a step at a time and glass and get to the top of this knob and no harm, no foul, and I'll get on the knob.
You took your time, you got up there and you glassed to the top and then you took your stuff off and sat down.
And I was just going to wait. Little did I know,
he just
15 yards. He winded me probably, I would figure, because I looked down where he bedded.
Yep.
1.5 yards is all it would have mattered. Just literally 1.5 yards, and he wouldn't have smelled me.
And it's so funny, like how those things worked out, because literally you were probably 10 yards from him when you came around the V and walked up the slope.
Yeah.
And I'm up here on the hill looking down, and literally there is just a 10-yard space, blind spot, that Aaron and I cannot see. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we can see the entire spot from our location.
And that is
he's
no
in
lie.
that 10-yard blind spot.
Yeah.
And it just
well, and I was just going to put another arrow in him. When I saw all that blood, I even caught blood in the middle of that field, that drainage running across it.
Oh, really?
So I knew he was hurt.
He was
right.
bleeding hard.
Yeah, he was bleeding hard. And I was moving across that field because from where you saw him, I'm like, surely nothing. It's not in the middle.
But Lander, you said when he broke out over the top, this is after he went through the barbed wire fence, after he bedded twice, he got up over the top and he started trotting like he was all good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
which probably killed him. That probably is what really made him stop where he did was, I mean, maybe not killed him, but you know what I mean.
He was dying no matter what, but I think that sped it up a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, be better just to let him sit there, calm down, and die. Right.
Well, and Lander mentioned that to me. He's like, and the lesson of today is don't push deer or they run, or no, what'd you say? Or it'd have been dead where it was or something like
200
that.
yards to the top or half a mile from the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And you just got to look down at me like, he just gave me a nod, and I was smiling. I was just like, whatever. I was stoked, man. Anytime these big ones, that's with anything, compound, or it's an accomplishment. I mean, because we've had some people, your cameras doing something. And even this week, who've gotten their shots, and even, it's just not easy. It really is not easy.
Well, you have
think they're stupid.
you have a sense. I don't deal well with people that don't make fun of each other. Like I need to, and you poke fun all day, but that will honestly, if in 30 years the same thing happens, I'll remember you at the top of a hill saying, and the lesson of the day, because I've pushed animals that I shouldn't. I've pushed animals that probably wouldn't have found if I wouldn't have pushed them, but having the common sense of when to push, right, and when not to. And you're a very advocate, especially in the terrain you're in. Don't push. Don't push.
But it's a hard thing because when a deer, we get a lot of gut shot deer. They draw back and they explode because things happen. Is allowing a deer to die by septic shock, which is brutal way to die.
Yeah.
All night long, basically, and then the coyotes get on them and eat them alive. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I mean, some guys, there's times it's like if you can get another arrow into him, or if he's in a place where you can get in and kill him, like you did, I think is good.
Yeah.
But I struggle with that. It'd be interesting to hear what other people do.
So
South, what South Cox does.
Yeah.
If there's a gut shot, if he goes in to put another arrow, or if he stands back and lets it.
if it's a one lung and muscle, I run it down. If it's gut shot, I back out.
Yeah,
literally,
I do the same
every time,
That's
no
what I
matter
was
what.
going to say.
Yeah.
That's kind of the
It's the unfortunate part of bow hunting. I
Well-
mean, or any hunting is that. But
And I wasn't trying to I was doing my version of as sneaky as I could be. I wasn't trying to push this one. Like a muscle wound, I'll literally flag, like try to get it to run to get blood out sometimes. But this one, I was just thinking he's got to be just bedded right over the hill.
who goes uphill? I mean,
I know.
I would never thought
150-pound
once
horse,
that you could
pony.
go uphill. Yeah.
But the thing is that thing, you mentioned this when we got to the top. You're like, the one thing that's in our favor is that arrow is stuck in there and it's not coming. It didn't.
It wasn't
come out.
moving. Yeah. It was,
And so when it went through the barbed wire, wrenched it, and now it's doing all this movement, jumping, climbing hills with this giant blade, cutting, continuing to do damage. It certainly had to, speed up.
I think he was dying of blood loss. I don't think he would have died of blood loss before he died of gut shot.
You would
septic
not
shot.
believe from where the hit was how much blood was on the ground. It was unbelievable.
Well, I saw it on his body.
That's
It was
what I
amazing.
think too. I don't think the I don't know if Aaron hit lung or not, or just
Yeah.
trimmed some of that, but the bottom line is that back wound bled like stuck
you hit an
there.
artery because you said you saw blood flying out of him when you
Right
hit
when
him.
I hit, when I hit, things happen so fast. I just saw blood shoot out of the hole, and I'm like, whew, I hit him back, but there's blood flying out of the hole. You know what I mean? I was like, wow. So, but yeah, it was a pretty amazing.
A lot of arteries in that rear.
Yeah, there is. And I was basically 4 inches in front of the rear quarter, at the very top of him. It's pretty much where I hit, and there's an artery back there too. I definitely, there's the way that your humor works are the things I'll remember. And when you said that, I'm like, for me, those are the kind of things that, you'll have a wife that does things that bug you, but you'll remember, and, whatever the case may be, or a girlfriend or whatever. Anytime I have a question of pushing something, I'm sure I will think of you saying, and the lesson of today is in
But
Big Black.
the wild thing with that deer is where he went after he went up that cliff and he turned around defiantly like, who did that? Come get me. He had protection at his back. He went up that cliff for a specific reason.
Yeah.
Because he had no idea what happened.
Yeah.
And whatever it was hurt him, but he was taking his last stand. And then he turned around and was just like, who was it? I mean, he looked right at us.
Yeah.
It's like, that was kind of weird, kind of bizarre, actually.
Dude, these mature bucks are different animals.
What-
They're not.
And he's probably, 5.5?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know.
You don't think he's older?
He could be. I'm not the best. The Texans would be able to tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say the teeth thing. I'm not as good. He's an old, mature deer. And I would think he'd be gross in the 170s. I would
That
guess.
other buck.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's fooled me a few times in his lifetime over there.
That other buck looked way older.
The
He
the
was
one that
gray.
yeah.
When he walked, his elbows looked stiff. Like all of him looked all
Yeah.
stuck. This guy looked a lot more limber.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the thoroughbreds and the old school guys. Yeah, when they get up, it's fun to watch them in the morning because they look like I feel in the morning, right?
You were right though.
Their
Without seeing their
shoulders.
rack, you can see which ones are the old bucks through the spotter at 1,000 yards away or more.
The necks. I have all this video from it. Too bad I really never got some close-up footage, close-up footage of some of these big bucks.
I've actually
But,
videoed part by part on the GoPro of what happened. I forgot about that. So yeah, you'll have that too. But yeah, you got some good video.
We're gonna throw all this video up on our YouTube channel as quick as we can.
Yeah, I know it was an amazing week.
Question for you, Lander. Now that you've seen Aaron shoot because we went bear hunting together. We're shooting in the backyard and all that, but you didn't really see Aaron hunt. What? And my question is, you said you have 3 guys you can remember that have tagged out on with a stick bow on,
including Aaron
mule deer. That's not a very long list.
No.
What is it that's different between the guys that make it happen and the guys that don't? And is this something where those 3 guys consistently do it, or they just a couple of them got lucky? Because
no, I mean I've had a lot of really good traditional shooters up here, and I mean I live here, and I probably kill one for every 5 or 6 shots I take. So I mean, I'm not saying that traditional guys aren't. You have to be closer here. I use my rangefinder continuously, and I hunt with a longbow. But I and you did as well, right?
Yeah, I ranged
because it just doesn't. It looks farther. Like where he showed me where that deer was laying, I would have said 50 yards in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So I come down here in the spring. We're shed hunting. I stump shoot all those canyons, man. Constantly. I shoot tons. And it's just like, and I range, it's like, oh my gosh, that's only 40 yards. It looks like across those canyons. But
I can't gauge distance here at all. Zero,
no, it's tough. It is tough.
I look at the thing and I'm like 50 yards, no doubt. And I range it. It's 30 yards.
Yeah.
The buck I shot, I'm leaning over the hill and I'm like, wow, that's down there. That's far. And I range it and it's like 22 yards. I'm like, of course it was steep. So it was really distance wise about 30 yards. But still, I'm like, it seemed way further.
Mm-hmm. But I think to answer your question, it's just you have to be closer. Most guys, aren't going to take a 40-yard shot. I mean, mine was 33 yards, and I would get heat for shooting a longbow 33 yards, but it felt fine.
Yeah.
But distances, and now, I mean, I've had a couple compound guys who shot, the longest was 92 yards. Last week was 78 yards, and he pinwheeled the thing.
Yeah.
Pinwheeled it. So I think accuracy and to be honest, I like compounds. Compounds mean success for me, and that's a good thing, right? So
when I draw with a compound, it's like anymore. I mean, in the beginning, I would deal with nerves and pressure and choking or whatever. Now, when I pull the bow back, for the most part, those emotions and the thought process is in control, and I can execute the shot. I feel like if I get the bow back and I have time to execute, it's just, I know the arrow is going to go where I'm putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Put the pin on it. I know I'm going to hit it. There's no question. Aaron and I were talking about this. He's like, with the recurve, he's pulling it back. There's still a certain level of, I'm not sure exactly where this is going to hit.
Well, and a very for clarity, that was right after I missed that deer, which was a big deer, and I know exactly the arch of my compound, what hole I can make it through, and shooting through that hole that the deer, when it stood up, I mean, I thought I could make it through, and I was wrong. And with a compound, I would have bet $1.5 million without blinking an eye. I'll put it through that hole every time. With the trad bow, which people can, talk all the crap they want. We've talked a lot about people talking crap this week of the, what somebody would have done. Would you have low crawled on the left side of the road or the right side of the road, or would you have done this or that or this shot or whatever? But it is more difficult, especially with the no pin, no scope, no housing, no draw stops, no nothing. Mm-hmm. You can't 100% say, I can't. I can shoot through that hole. I'll make it, no problem. It's just not there. Should I have taken that shot? I mean, I felt comfortable with at the time, the one I missed. And that 38-yard shot at the buck, I would take that shot.
But it was straight downhill, too. So, I mean, that's fairly close, right? But, I mean, we've had 9 shots in the last 2 weeks from compound, 2 of them killed. We've had 2 shots with recurves, 1 of them killed.
Yeah, yep.
So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of missing out here. As long as there's not wounding, and that it's part of what you do. But
it's funny, like I mean, it's a challenging hunt, but just an awesome blast.
I would say every year I could kill one out here with the recurve. Personally, I can't say what size. I think you could do it if you were very diligent if you were smart enough about it. Like from what I've seen here, I may come back out for 3 years and not kill one, but I feel my confidence is there, if that makes any sense. I'm not saying I will, but I wouldn't come out here and say, "Oh,
you don't know what to do."
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I'll tell
it
you
would be
what.
different approach.
I told Ben last night, I was like, I really want to do it again because I want. Now I have all these newfound skills. I have a whole toolbox of stuff that I did not have before.
Yeah.
Now I want to use those and get a do-over, right?
Yeah.
And that's I don't feel it's a poke and a hope, right? I don't feel like I don't feel I got lucky. I mean, I got lucky on this
I
animal.
got
I mean,
plans.
I
I kind of know what to do, where to go, how to approach things, what the deer behavior is like. There was a steep learning curve. I was gathering every day. Like, that doesn't work. Let's do this.
I'm curious how the deer are in South's area, because if he's like me, used to hunting dumb deer, I'm curious how South does, because he's in Alberta, or he was just in Alberta, or he's just getting ready to go. Because I can tell you these deer are a lot smarter than the high country mule deer where I'm
even
from.
South mentioned, when they're in velvet, it's a totally different animal. It's Robbie Denning, same thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's like you're hunting a different species. Almost.
Well, even, and that's true 100%, but even when we go on those high country, and we're starting to creep in a little rut action, third season, fourth season rifle hunts, there's deer not nearly as smart as these deer here. I mean, they're just not where I hunt. I mean, you pop your head up from 300 yards away, you could have 30 does look at you, and they'll go back down to feed. And that doe, she is on you like Donkey Kong until you got to give her a few minutes. And when I was going down that big canyon where I had that buck in the cave, I flagged my head for 3 to 5 seconds, and one of the sentries caught me. And it was all does that I could see in the bottom of that canyon. And deer where I'm like that, they may look, but they just go back to feed, and they don't worry about it. So again, I mean, I'm not saying I would shoot a deer every year here, but I would feel confident that I could kill a good deer here every year.
You're going to have your opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your success rate?
Opportunity is the one guy out of 8 this year did not have an opportunity
To draw his bow.
Yeah. The rest of them did. This year would be, 3 guys out of 8.
Yeah. But they all got shots, almost.
They all shot. Yeah. Except for the one guy last year.
Well,
last week.
In our camp, not to paint the gloomy picture of 3 of 8, but I got to be there for some of it, and
We should have been full.
yeah, we should have we should have been tagged out. We should have, and nothing against. I mean, they're our friends, right? Nothing against the guys here, but missed at 40, missed at 30, missed at 18. Is that right?
I
25.
I think it takes, I was telling Aaron this the other day. There are a lot of guys who can stalk really well, but can't make the shot. And there's a lot of guys who can make a shot, but can't stalk with beans.
Yeah.
And then you got people who can't do either one. And as a guide, that would drive me crazy. I'd have a hard time with it.
You get used to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah.
What bothers me is stupid shots. Like you get towards the end and guys want to kill no matter what, and then they take ill-advised shots, and then I don't snap very often,
That'll make you.
but once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Well, You've had big names up here many, many times, and I don't think it matters. You've had guys from, Dwight Shue, Larry D. Jones, Kurt Wells. You've had guys like that up here frequently. So you've had very, very. I mean, I've heard about your area before.
Ulmer. Yeah.
Yeah, Ulmer, before I even knew you or this area. But no, I would feel confident. I would come up here every year and feel confident I would at least get a shot. I'd not say kill one. I could get shots. Even with the stick bow, I would feel confident. With a compound, I could have killed a lot of deer this week, and that's the next
And
podcast.
with a rifle, you could too.
Oh Lordy!
What I liked about this hunt was one thing when I was talking to Ben is, and this was something that crossed my mind. I've never shot a mule deer with a bow before. Never. I've hunted them once, and once before for 3 days, and it was during a rut, and it was an Oregon hunt, and it was pretty fun. I was like, wow, this mule deer hunting is fun. But so we come here, and I've seen a ton of big bucks, really big bucks, that I just don't have the opportunity to see in other areas where we can hunt. I might see one or two 180-inch bucks. Here, though, I almost saw one every day where I was at. There was, I think, out of the 6 days, I saw multiple bucks in the 170 to 180 something range, 190 range, 4 out of the 6 days. And they were in different areas. They're just all over. You got some big deer here.
It's been a good spring, though. We had 28 inches of rain versus averages 4 or 5.
So you're telling me this is a fluke?
I'm telling you that this year, no, it's not a fluke, but we saw yesterday was the best big buck morning I've ever had here. I saw yesterday morning probably 6 deer that would go over 185.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen. I mean, you most places, if you see in BC where I live, if you see a buck that's over 180, guys will be hunting that buck all season.
Totally, that's what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
And so here we are with these target-rich opportunity of all these larger bucks.
But you're right, they are here, and some years are better than others. But when you go out, you are going to see. You will see 160s or better. It's just the way it is. Now in the early season, like where we were glassing the pea field, there may be 4 or 5 deer there because there's a lot of food in the canyons. They hadn't had a freeze yet or a frost that killed all the natural stuff. Now there's too many. Like the alfalfa field, there's 100 on there. In fact, yesterday I didn't even look at the alfalfa.
So when I'm out there, and I'm debating, what to shoot, I see a very stockable buck in the one that I shot. And I just want to go shoot one, like experience shooting a mature buck, hunting a mature buck and doing it. But I'm also in this area where you don't have this opportunity very often to hunt this many large bucks, And so I go through this thing where I'm debating, and Ben was saying that there was some guys that came and didn't, they were holding out for those really big ones. Is that what you get most of the time?
No. What I get is guys who say they're going to hold out, and then they kill whatever, 150, 160, which is fine. If they're happy, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Very few will hold out for that monster. Like this year when I shot my buck, I had 3 other plays that morning. 2 of them were gigantic, but they had does with them. That one was by himself. So I went with the higher odds, which you have to do. Everyone wants to shoot one.
I'm kind of all
like
about the whole, work your way up. It's like there's a lot of like when you have a guy that says I'm going to shoot a 190 or nothing, but he's never shot anything before. There's so much I gained from that stock and that experience that
you had, that was an awesome deer you shot. So fantastic.
I like that.
I was going to say, dude, that's a hell of a first archery mule deer buck. I mean, Jeff and I were talking about it. Yours was a forked horn first deer with a bow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, mine was a doe.
Yeah, so I toss salad with mine.
Right, barely. So yeah, exactly, salad.
But it's cool, though. Like, all I'm getting at is I love my deer.
Yeah.
Super thrilled with that. I can see a guy coming down here, though, and having these mixed emotions. Like, a big deer that I shot, those aren't going to, I don't come across those hardly ever. And yet, there's deers like this that are just, like, kind of, to me, like freaks of nature, phenomenal. Like,
when I had passed smaller deer this week, and I'd made several comments like, yep, I'm thinking back, I shouldn't have passed on that 3-point. And you were like, with these big deer here, how can you do that? And I'm like, it's crossing my mind. And you kept saying over and over, just wait. And obviously it panned out. And what I was going to say as far as like the limit someone could get in of, if you were a true trophy mule deer hunter, like a true trophy, I would book you for 2 weeks, personally, because in that 12 days, in my opinion, of the very short period of time, you're going to get with a compound, a little bit different with the struggle stick. You'll get one to bed in a position that you could kill it. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
In 12 days. Basically, it would be all up to the person to screw up the shot or kick a rock or whatever. But you could get one of these big bucks to bed solo and feasibly get a shot at a buck over, 195.
Without a doubt, there are bucks I would have killed, or I would have been close to killing in the first couple of days had I known what I know now.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like a guy that's hunted mule deer before, if he comes out here and he's got that, that's a huge advantage to me. Like, I'm much more deadly now than I was on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, I saw 3 deer that you guys didn't see. We all saw deer that we didn't see, but that buck yesterday with you and me and Kenton, I only got 15, 20 seconds for. It was the biggest deer I've ever seen. It didn't even look right. I thought it was a stump, but there's no trees here. And then that deer that I got 54 yards from, and probably had 15 inches on that one. So he's scratching on 190, and that was 54 yards, and that was for 45 minutes that I was above him. So, I mean,
but with I do this myself if I have the time. You could get onto a deer here as long as you do not push him. He's going to be in the same spot, off and on, and a lot of times you sit there, you set up. He's with 8 does, boom, I'm gone. Like I go somewhere else to glass.
Yeah.
As soon as he goes solo or he's got 1 or 2 and it's possible, then you move in. And you're right, 2 weeks and you focus on one deer. We had a guy last week who focused on one, and that buck's going to probably gross 210, 220, non-typical. He's huge.
Yeah.
But then his rangefinder wouldn't work. 51 yards of the compound.
Oh, man.
That's a whole different story. Yeah.
Well, I would shoot that deer there every year and be more than happy with a compound. It looks bigger today. Is it Admiration Day? Maybe that's why. I'm
It might be the lighting.
excited.
Dude, it's a beast.
It's got it's got good mass is what it's got. But I would say, I was on a bunch of deer. We were on a bunch of deer this year, or this season. In 12 days, I would think you could get on just a yacker. If you bought if you didn't blow them out and you were very patient, probably 6 days. Sometimes you have to push things a little bit, but, with 12 days, I think you could buy your time and you could just drop a monster in here.
Not sure if I could handle you for 12 days.
I know. You can see the cool thing with Jeff is where you stand with him, because he doesn't say you're driving me crazy. He'll be like, hey, you should go over there and glass, which means you're driving me crazy.
Or it'll be, you're boring me.
That's one thing. I'm going to steal a couple things from Jeff. One is that you're boring me, because the first time we were with Ben, he hung up on you. And I could see okay, something's going on here. And then the next time I was with you, you were like, okay, you're boring me. And you hung up on him, and I could hear him go in the background. And I was, he got me. You do have a pretty funny sense of humor.
Got out here.
Yeah. Oh,
well, I want to thank you. It was a blast. Any parting words before we close?
No, you guys done
down?
well, man. You came up to BC and you doubled there and you doubled here. That's pretty amazing. Done well, both of you.
I tell you, we talked about this a little bit last night, Ben and I. The bear hunt, a lot more relaxed, a lot of goofing around. You get lots of sleep. It's a real casual kind of experience.
You got to keep your head on a swivel in Alberta. These deer are not dumb bears.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're not rutting either, like the bears were.
Yeah.
And you have multiple stocks on the bear thing. Here, you're like, you're working.
Yeah, it's a chess
It's
game.
a grind.
Oh, and I had a couple comments already, not to talk, whatever, but it is not easy killing these deer, because I got a message from a guy that says, cool, you got a deer, but it's a little bit easy in Alberta, isn't it? And I was like, no, it is not that easy at all. And I understand.
It's easy in the sense that there are a lot of deer.
Yeah.
But
Easy to spot them.
The deer are seem to be a lot harder to kill. It's a lot smarter and trickier and vigilant.
I think it tests the patience of any mule deer hunter hunting these things because.
But without a doubt, I mean, target-rich environment, 100%. I mean,
and that's if you
quantity of deer is up,
which keeps the enthusiasm going, right? When you're getting up at 5 and driving that hour-long drive, and just
throw the spotter out, and you're like, buck.
Yeah,
buck.
you know that
There's
when
a buck.
the light comes, you're going to have something in your scope.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than a lot of places you'll go and you put. Yeah, we didn't see anything this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm spoiled, Colorado, whether it be me hunting or helping guys out hunt. It's a little bit
It's a
different.
mule deer state.
Yeah, there's a lot of mule deer, but the biggest thing again is the deer are more intelligent here. Would be the thing I would say is the terrain is stockable. Obviously the numbers are insane, but the deer they're intelligent and
I don't know if it's intelligent or just vigilant. They just
Yeah.
they're just on point, more than the other deer are more relaxed.
Well, you look at
Yeah.
texting my buddy back and forth. I've got buddies still in the military, and anyway, I went to send this big long text, and I was like, I'm gonna call him because he's a super good. In fact, his name's Steve Tetrault, and he's been in combat a bit. And you compare this to someone that's raised in Somalia, this deer.
Yeah.
That deer is on point all the time, every time. He's been shot at since he was a kid.
Yeah.
And then head down to La Jolla, California. Those kids haven't been in any problem. Much more relaxed life, happy life.
Yeah.
Well, these deer from Somalia, they're edgy. I mean, they are. I mean, I've never seen a deer get out of a bed like that one yesterday. You just pulled a truck up, and he got out of its bed and took off. Now, the wind was bad, and we couldn't have got on it anyway. But I mean, you definitely have to have your wits about you for sure. But
you'll use what you learned here in other hunts. You will.
For sure.
I hear that all the time.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
This is like a major growth. Like just another boost in knowledge gained, and it's hard to replace theory. I've talked to South about this. I've talked to a lot of people about hunting mule deer, but it's hard to replace talking about it with an actual experience. Doing it, hands and feet engaged, doing it. It's there. You just learn.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. I'm excited. Now I got to go 4th season mule deer, Colorado.
Nice.
Yeah, where you have the potential to crush the size of that deer right there.
That's good. I look forward to seeing the pictures of that.
Yeah. No, it'll be good.
So let's wrap this up. Anything else, Snyder?
Man, I can't thank you. Jeff has been a huge mentor for me in the trad archery part of things, and just help keep my together in general as a human. So I actually can't thank you enough for everything, man.
Oh man, it's been a riot.
Yeah, it's a good trip, and Brian for flagging me into the deer. I would have been wandering around the jungle like Captain Simplejack over there trying to find that deer.
We left Brian in the prairie yesterday all day long.
12 hours actually.
Sun up to sundown because we had
Poor
it was
Kent.
the
Kent.
military exercise yesterday. We had people everywhere glassing for 2 guys, and you had stuff going on, but we had stuff going on. So it
was a good problem to have.
Yeah.
To have all these bucks located. Aaron and I filled our tags, so we were able to go out and scout more eyes and feet. But I got left there, and I was expecting lunch to come around noon or something, right? So I pretty much fasted.
we ate your lunch. That's cool. I can't wait to go out there next week and see all the monuments,
Noonan.
the memories of Brian.
Noonan. Yeah.
Oh, Brian was here.
That's
Oh,
funny.
come on! I started throwing cow pies on it.
Attaboy.
Just to
That's good.
just to make the farmer happy.
Yeah.
The rancher.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you.
You
Appreciate
betcha.
it. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet.
Stay
Anytime.
Okay, Gritty friends, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. We love reading your reviews. And connect with us on social media if you're on there. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram, and take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can receive notifications when we upload new videos. We've got a sweet deal with Mountain Ops. You get 20% off on all Mountain Ops supplements, combo packs, and apparel when you type in the word gritty at checkout. If you're a hardcore elk hunter, or you want to be, go to the Elk 101 website online and check them out. Our friend Corey Jacobson is killing it with some of the best elk hunting information and entertainment on the web. All right, friends, let me leave you with one other quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It behooves every man to remember that the work of the critic is of altogether secondary importance, and that, in the end, progress is accomplished by the man who does things." We all have a choice. We can be people who do things or people who criticize the work of others. It's pretty simple, really. Get out there and do your thing. Good luck on your hunts, and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.